It's an exciting time to be an artist. Art schools are booming. Artists nowadays from every walk of life have access to online courses taught by some of the industry's leading artists. Being a contributor to this exciting shift in artistic education, I couldn't be more excited. But I'm also aware of a missing link. There's a gap in this system that for many art students can be a gray zone, where motivation, structure, and daily practice of these fundamental skills can be a struggle or even fall completely by the wayside. That's where today's sponsor comes in. Art Work of the Day, or better known as ArtWAD. ArtWAD is an incredible new art platform that adopts the disciplined mindset of CrossFit training and bridges it into daily artistic training, aiming to transform your artistic growth into a lifestyle. Everything is beautifully designed and structured for any platform, from desktop to any mobile device of your choice, where you'll be guided through a multitude of crucially important artistic fundamentals demonstrated and explained thoroughly. The instructors have proven through example how this incredible mindset and lifestyle change can lead to incredibly fast growth and professional success. As well, ArtWAD is built around a tight-knit and inviting Discord community where you can practice in company if you'd like and find like-minded artists that you can join along your journey. Maybe even forge art friendships that will follow you through the rest of your life and career. I'm also excited to tell you that ArtWAD just announced a brand new beginner course, which I can't stress enough is a blessing to aspiring artists who have no idea where to start. Building a solid early foundation with a disciplined mindset is invaluable and will serve you throughout your entire career. It's like building a home with the best materials imaginable. So, it's my pleasure to thank ArtWAD for being today's sponsor. And if you're truly serious about integrating an industry-leading art career mindset, then you can find all of the information in the description below. Enjoy the video. Hello everybody, it's Adam from Lucidpixul, and today it's my honor to bring you the art of GWENT, the Witcher card game. Now, I put out my book review for the Witcher Compendium a couple of weeks ago, and all of you said, I said, this isn't technically an art book, and everybody said, there is an art book, it's called The Art of GWENT. I already own the book, I was already planning this video, so calm your asses down, all right? But this is technically not the same type of art book I would normally review on my channel, because normally it's in the art of the production, it's production art. This is the art of a game within a game. If you've played The Witcher, you're familiar with the GWENT game, which is a card game you can play against innkeepers and different players in the game, different NPCs, as a side thing. And it's such an engaging, fun game to play that, like, I'm on my third playthrough of the game. I'm around the area where the crones are, and I've spent 40% of my gameplay time playing GWENT. It's just fun. It's easy to pick up and really fun to play. So we're going to delve into this, and it's going to expose us to a very different facet of art production. And this is particularly card art, fantasy card art, which can loosely translate into other types of art as well. But there's a distinction that I want to make here, because usually I'm talking about game production art. I'm personally, my main background is in fantasy card art. This is something I've done quite a bit. I've done stuff for video games, but where I am right now is more of a fantasy artist. And card art has its own philosophy. So for any of you aspiring artists out there, this is going to serve as a bit of maybe a learning opportunity for you to know how to focus your artistic skills and your artistic priorities to better suit yourself for this type of work if this is the kind of thing you're into. All right, so let's break into it. And the first thing you're going to notice is, in terms of the artistry itself, these are very completed, illustrated pieces of artwork. I'm going to mention the names to the best of my ability. They're names in Polish. I do have, my mother's side of my family is Polish, but I'm going to have to work at pronouncing them. So if I make any pronunciation mistakes down below, let me know in the comments. Okay. But one of the things that that you distinguish when it comes to card art is, and let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit closer. There you go. Is your illustrations are going to end up being 2.5 by 2.5 inches in most cases. They're tiny little pieces. So that whatever the card is called, Wild Hunt Hound, Shadow, that has to be right up in front of your face, because when you're looking at it super small, if you've got a little character sitting on a staircase on a house that's 30 feet away, that's going to read as this to your audience. It's going to be this tiny little thing. So you have to make sure to bring everything to the forefront. In photography, the expression they use is fill the frame with that which you love. So that's what's going on here. Wild Hunt Hound, that has to jump out at me. This illustration, and you're going to see a lot of these repeated names. Anytime we meet a new artist, I'll mention it, is Nemanja Stankovic. C pronounces like a TS, if I'm not mistaken. And on the right, we have Marek Madej, over on the right. Again, correct me if my pronunciation sucks. You can check it out for yourself. I need to learn, right? Next, the Foglets. Again, very neutral characters, and I'd like to add a very nice use of rim lighting. To all you fantasy artists out there who put a rim light on the edge of everything, stop doing that. Learn how to do rim light, kicker light, hair light. These are specific types of lights that serve a specific function. They should also help to not only create separation from the background, but also give you a subtle sense of three-dimensional form. I have a kicker light right here on my face, and you can see how it's catching the side of my cheek and the side of my face. You can see my hand is catching this as well, and you can see how it's not just a line coming along my contour, it's actually bleeding into the form slightly, as it is here. See, it's catching on the inside of the skull, and it's wrapping a little bit around the shoulder. Very important learning lesson, because this is, I find, a mistake that's made very often that tends to flatten images. Notice the contrast in these colors. This is an enemy card, so you want to feel a little bit more intensity. So the contrast ratio, look it up, okay? The contrast ratio between the light and the shadow is a little bit higher to create more graphic intensity. This is by Bartłomiej Gaweł. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Bartłomiej Gaweł. Cool. Probably got that totally wrong. There you go. I love this piece. This is actually by one of the first English sounding names, Adrian Smith. That's about as English as it gets. I love this piece. It's very painterly, very beautiful painterly brushstrokes, but look at how Adrian used color to create a focal point. The main focal point is pulled across to the right side of the image, but there's a higher use of orange. It's kind of an teal and orange kind of color scheme with these little dabs of orange in the eyes, in the mid-tones, in these corpses on the ground, to help your eye to transition gently into the background with these lovely gray and slightly orange clouds, just to create this nice balance of color, all juxtaposed against this nice, cool teal background. Very simple, very effective. And again, another really beautiful use of that rim light and that kicker light on the side. Kicker light is when it favors one side. Hair lights when it's across the shoulders, like that. Now we're getting into more intense characters. All the characters we've seen up to here are common, like foglets and neckers and stuff like that. These are characters you run into all over the place, along the banks of the river or running through the forest. But this is the Wild Hunt Riders. These are high contrast, intense, very threatening characters you have to prepare for. You can't engage them early on in the game. So look at the use of contrast. Look at the intense composition. There's a lot of punch to this. There's a lot of depth to the piece to create that sense of intensity. And this translates directly into the game itself. When all of a sudden the Wild Hunt comes in, everything just goes cold. You hear the crackle of the split in dimensions as they ride in, and snow just pours in over the landscape. Very intense characters. Visually, that needs to be represented in the card as well. Otherwise, you look at it and they just feel like standard characters like everybody else. Very important page. Over here we have lesser golems, the regular golems, and here we have the lesser fire elemental and the lesser earth elemental. All of these fall within a category of elementals. In a sense, golems are rock creatures, and you can have fire or earth or air elementals. If you've played video games, you probably know what I'm talking about. But notice how they fall within a theme. And when you're working in fantasy art, particularly card art, there's a color theme that usually goes with different races, different cultures, so you can immediately identify with what card you're looking at, even before you look at it, because the colors have already clued you in. Check out this video by Darkin where he draws the Lich King. And in the video, he references other artists' Lich King illustrations, both as a style guide, but also as a color guide, because he wants to make sure he's following that same color philosophy that's already been established in the game. So here we have this kind of blue and orange type of high contrast color theme going on over here. And on this side, we have a more neutral character. This is a Drowner. These things you can Igni, and they're pretty much the end of them right there. They're like some of the first characters you meet. High intensity in contrast, low intensity in contrast. And you can immediately put this guy in a swampy, rotten environment, and this is more of a intense type of battle situation. Very important lesson on this page. Don't be afraid to act. If you're gonna act, act all the way. This is something that dancers learn, actors learn, photographers learn, and illustrators learn too. Remember that your character, your illustration is a performance. Think of it that way. So don't be afraid to be expressive, and in art, you can very often get away with things in a way that's interpreted as artistic, in a way that live action can sometimes be a little bit too hardcore. Open wounds, the vascularity, the tearing of the flesh. This is very visceral. There's the spatters of flesh, and there's flies, and there's rot. That kind of stuff in real life is really frightening and really disgusting. But in art, it is disgusting, but we interpret it as an artistic expression. So we just go, wow, that's so cool. Or the beautiful way that this face, kind of bat-like face, has been splayed out, and the really terrified look on the face of the horse. It's just letting yourself completely let go with your full expression and not being afraid of that. This is illustrated by Bartłomiej Gavel. Jezus Maria, these names are so hard to pronounce. Adrian Smith, here over on the right. You can we're starting to recognize their styles here. It's pretty dope. Another very cool lesson. Adaptations, learning, documentary, stuff like that. Knowledge is power when it comes to art. And you can watch documentaries of plants that have adaptations that stimulate the bowels of bats that make them poop into a little cup that they use to fertilize themselves. This exists in real life. I'm not making this shit up. There's these type plants that have this level of adaptation and brilliance in their design. That translates into something like this, where there's a spider that's adapted himself to have this kind of like floral type of face that kind of seduces the rat, and he gobbles him up and catches him. It's bait. This is not a far stretch from reality. And you can see how Marek, in this particular case, knew his shit, how he really did his studying, or at least the person who wrote this idea wrote it. And that really translates into something pretty cool. One of my favorite pages. The Fiend on the left by Marek as well kind of looks like a bit of a loose interpretation of what could be a Wendigo. I think, if I'm not mistaken, because they have Leshens in Witcher, which is, I imagine, the Slavic translation of Wendigo. I've done several of them myself. I love the Wendigo character, that kind of lore. But this kind of seems as a loose interpretation of this by Marek. And over here, Marta Detlaf interpreted, in my opinion, one of my favorite illustrations in this. It is this creature. Look at how beautifully this is composed. This big composition. You see these little riders at the bottom, and then the fire attracts your attention to this, skull shape. And then you realize the entire mountainside is this humongous, horrifying creature named the Frightener that's about to gobble them all up. That is legitimately frightening. And look at the little adaptations of plants and stuff like that in here. Isn't that amazing? Crones. I love folklore. And one of my students from Russia actually had, and I did when I did the illustrations, for instance, of Cachet the Deathless or Baba Yaga. It's very much based off of a lot of the knowledge that I put into this was attributed to my student who informed me. She knew a lot more about Russian and Slavic lore than I did. And one of the things she told me about I thought was really interesting that translates into the Crones is what was interpreted as evil women back then. And when you like, for instance, I have the Mavka and the Rusalka, and I have Baba Yaga, and all these different types of folklore is very often based off of women who were accused of being improper, of stepping outside the confines of a very controlled environment. So a woman who shows off a little bit more skin, that's indecency. That indecency is evil, and that evil should be punished by death. What makes them gross is very often an over-embellishment of very raw femininity, saggy tits, and the lustful tongue, and it's all of these things that we would normally, in the context of these old crones, would be very, that's very gross and jarring. This is very powerful writing and very powerful design. Man, did they capture this well. Mwah! So good. Again, look at this with the water hags. Hag. She's a manifest. She's kind of like, you could call her kind of like the Nosferatu of this type of hag character. Nosferatu, which is the non-elegant Lestat type of vampire, where Nosferatu has inverted fangs and rotted things, and they're very visceral and they live in the streets and they eat rubbish. Well, a hag, she's got the saggy boobs and the osteoporosis, the scoliosis in her back. She's all kind of bent over, and she's become this unloved, this disgusting female figure. That's very, very well done. Just gotta say. Adrian Smith. Now, as we get into human characters, for instance, the Gaels, I can't remember how you pronounce them, by Marta Detlef as well. Notice the contrast, the contrast between the light and the rim light in the back. It's softer. There's less contrast. Why? He's a softer character. Okay, so this translates into it. Not only that, but a nice warm fill of candlelight. This is all very beautifully thought out. Notice how the rim light in the back, or the hair light that you've got in the back, has a softer fall off. There's less contrast to create this softer, gentler feel to it. The amount of knowledge of photography and lighting and color and composition that's gone into this is not to be taken for granted. This is some pretty stellar, beautiful work over here. Now, when you get into the human characters, I think this is so cool. I want to take a moment to tip my hat to the sound of The Witcher. And in two different instances, the ambient sound is incredible. The wind, the cracking of the trees, the docks, something I mentioned in my book review for the Compendium here, if I haven't linked it before. These ambient sounds, but the fucking voice acting. I love voice actors. One of my former students was a voice actor as well, and she got, as a gift when she graduated from it, she asked him to send me this short clip of him doing the voice of one of her main characters, this vain alpha male masculine character, very Gaston from Beauty and the Beast type of character. And he sent me this little clip thanking me on her behalf. And I swear to God, the hair went up on the back of my neck at how incredibly powerful it was. I immediately saw this character in my head. And the voice acting that goes in not only into the main characters, but into these secondary characters. And I'm sure I'm going to get demonetized for this, but you know how they kind of have this very raw, unapologetic, rude, street type of voice. Hey, witch fuckers! Yeah, spitting when they talk like this with their rotten fucking teeth. This kind of rawness in the way that they talk, and I'm sitting there going, and you mix this in with the colors and the atmosphere and the acting and the design, and it's just this entire experience that you're completely transported to the point where I start talking like this. Where the fuck did I put my spinach? Marta Detlef, who did this piece over here. Look at the neutral colors. These are like as the thing is called, the poor fucking infantry. That's what the card's called when you're playing Gwent in the game. Very neutral tones. You know you're looking at nobodies. All of their face, they're very samey, very neutral grays, nothing too remarkable. They have a little bit of the fleur de lis in the background with the blue. But that's about it. Just enough to let you know these guys are one Igni, you know, or one Ard, and that's the end of the whole lot of them right there. There's gone. The Temerian foot soldiers, again, very neutral, but a little bit more of the blues, slightly different. This is a bit more of a violet blue versus the more cobalt blue you were looking in the other piece. Just to give you a slightly different culture in there. Now you get into the Redanian Knights, and the Redanian Knights are noble, and the plate, look at the beautiful use of red and gold. This is interpreted, particularly back during the medieval times, as royalty. So the use of reds was really on, it's the Gucci bag. You know, it's a visual flex to show their stature, to show their wealth and their power. So when you see this red, not to mention being a very aggressive color, you see this kind of color coming at you, you feel like you're coming face to face with an elite. And you can see how that visual language and that composition is translating into the color choices here as well. The Bloody Baron, another absolutely incredible, complex character. Something that they've done so beautifully, and something I mentioned about The Witcher, something they mention about everything that CD Projekt Red does as well, is there's no good, there's no evil, there's just people with good and bad. And there's this beautiful duality, this balance to all of these characters that they produce. And the Baron, who you meet, who's an abuser, he's a drunkard, he drinks all the time, he's rough around the edges. And there's different sides. He toys with your empathy. But then when you meet his daughter, she doesn't want a damn thing to do with him. He's just a piece of shit who deserves what came to him. This is so beautifully captured when you go through the whole quest where he transforms him into a lubberkin. But before that, he's a something else. I can't remember. A botchling. Thank you. An abandoned child who's unloved. Basically, a botchling is an abandoned fetus. That's about as visceral a subject as you can possibly get. And now he has to cuddle and coddle this now creature and have feelings for this creature who's now turned into something very disgusting that kills and eats the fetuses of pregnant women. Damn. Triss. The lovely Triss Marigold. Beautiful use of colors. Look at how these colors are giving you an indication of her personality. There's warm tones, it's very playful, it's very feminine. These colors are letting you know that she's somebody who's friendly, who's also magical and spiritual, but she's a more delicate character. Look at the use how she does butterfly magic to give you an idea of her personality. Triss is arguably the sweet love interest of Geralt versus Yennefer, who's a little bit more of a bitch, right? She's a bit more rough around the edges. So that visual language translates directly into the card that's illustrated. Jesus, could I say that any slower? Here's another I love this piece. This is by Anna Podedvorna. Hopefully I got that right. I love this piece. It's such a simple, powerful illustration. I love the expression that she's just basically just stuck a knife very slowly into somebody's face, which is a very powerful statement to make. Whenever somebody's trying to show power and stature, they move slowly and methodically. They don't move fast and jerky and nervous. She's just kind of like very relaxed, kind of shink, like that right into his thing. And she's got this smile like she's just having a whole lot of fun watching him cough up his blood. But look at the power of this very simple composition. She's got a sweet smile. It looks like she's laughing at two kittens playing together, but she just killed somebody. So there's this incredible juxtaposition of calm next to murder. One of my favorite illustrations in this book. By far, this is fantastic. I'm going to end on this note because, of course, I can't make this video 10 hours long. I'd love to. But this is a book basically from cover to cover full of absolute masterpieces of art. And I want to commend all of you artists who worked on this for not only just producing beautiful art, but being great actors, being great performers, being people who really have put the time and the years of experience into really being full packages of artists. And I cannot commend the mastery behind every single one of these masterpieces enough. So to all of you, thank you very much for joining me. I can't wait till Witcher 4 comes out. I'm counting the days, and I'll see you in my next book review. Take care.